And then there's little t trauma, which could be something as small as a passing comment that affects you and then takes you on the path of, say, anorexia, body dysmorphia, right? So it could be a passing comment. And when I've done any kind of trauma work for people that have had issues like that, it is always the smallest comment at the most vulnerable time in their life, which is their 0 to 7 age bracket. And that creates their whole world.
Welcome to Trujectory, the podcast committed to helping you align with who you really are, your true self. The one who is so comfortable with their uniqueness, so in love with life, and so effortlessly able to manifest everything they always dreamt of. I want this podcast to be a resource to help you jump into the driver's seat rather than continuing as a passenger in your own story. Let's understand why we choose to hold ourselves back so we can shed the lies that we've programmed into our minds. We can heal the root causes and step into the epic human that we know we can be. If you're ready to start aligning with your trajectory, let's do it. Welcome to the studio today, Sara. Hello, Sara. How you doing?
How you doing, Sarah? We had to give ourselves a bit of a differentiation, otherwise we've been confusing.
The Saras reunite.
That's it.
So Sara is a very talented practitioner, and she helps people deal with all kinds of trauma, whether it's generational, mother, father wounds, inner child trauma. And I am so fascinated by what you do. And I think there's so many different sides to it. So I'd love, just off the bat, if you could give us a bit of an understanding of what it is that you do, like what's the work that you're doing with your clients and the transformations that you're sort of facilitating.
Well, like it's a bit of this and a bit of that. So I'd like to say, like, as I'm known as a clinical hypnotherapy center, yes, I do hypnotherapy, but I also do stuff through the unconscious mind, through tapping, through timeline work, and through sound healing and energy work as well. So I work with a whole lot of modalities to help people release their traumas, because I found when I was in my very green and early days, yes, hypnotherapy was amazing and I was so fascinated by it, but there are certain limitations where people might be afraid to go into trance, and then you're like, oh no, what do I do if this is like my only modality? So working with different modalities is really helpful. And the other thing that I work with is my intuition with my clients as well. So sometimes they don't even have to tell me what's happened. I can see it, feel it, and just go through the journey with them through what I download myself.
Amazing. So have you always been really tapped into your intuitive abilities, or did you have a bit of an awakening and everything sort of came online?
I'd say I've always had it. It's a bit of a generational thing that runs through both sides of my family, both my mother and my father, through different ways. Like, so we've got a very generational, like, intuitive side, but also a healing side as well. So yeah,
Wow.
it's very, like, we're very lucky to have those gifts, and I've now seen it in my children as well.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Especially if you are so aware of how powerful that is.
Oh,
let's wait for the bus to pass.
Well, there's so many things I can tell people about that, because maybe this is another episode, but I had a conversation with my middle child, my second son, and he gave me a full-on timeline of his previous 2 lives, including the names of his parents, where he lived, and how he passed away. So, like, generally speaking, if I wasn't so aware, I probably would have been like, what is this? Like, you're telling me another story. Yeah. But I sat down and I listened to him, and he spoke about, and I always talk about this story because I was just like, oh, this is mind-blowing. He was telling us that he missed his other parents.
Oh,
and
wow.
He kept on crying, I miss my other mum and dad. And my eldest son was like, what do you mean? You've only got one parent. And I was like, hold on a second. And I was like, who are they? And then he proceeded to say, oh, it's Jack and June. And I was like, where did they live? And like, we went through this whole thing of like unpacking and trying to make sense of what this 7-year-old at the time was saying to us. And we worked out his previous life was actually in New Zealand.
Oh,
and
wow.
He passed away at the 2012 Christchurch quakes. And then I asked him, how quick from your passing did you come to me? And he said to me, it was so quick because he was born in 2013.
Oh, wow. Oh, my
goodness.
Yes.
Oh,
I love that you're so aware of it, and that you know the power of being tapped into your intuitive abilities, so you can help nurture that and allow him. Imagine where he's going to be, 20 years from now when he's in the business side of life and understanding what he's going to do for a living, but he's using all of his gifts to amplify that. That's huge.
Absolutely, absolutely. But yeah, so to answer your question, gosh,
It's all good.
this is going to be fun.
We go on a journey.
Yeah,
It's all good.
it was like, so I do hypnotherapy, matrix re-imprinting, which is a combination of EFT tapping, timeline therapy, and one more, but I just can't remember it right now, having a mind blank. Timeline work, Reiki energetic work, sound healing, which is a fantastic modality to help people release traumas that perhaps they're not ready to talk about just yet. So the power of sound can actually just shift and vibrate the cells, and you can have some deep releases. And I'm wanting to learn, or learning in the process of learning, about breath work, because that's also another way to really get in there and release traumas that are stuck within the body. So I do believe that the body does keep score, and it does hold on to traumas whether we're aware of them or not. So yeah,
Absolutely.
body work is a huge thing. Yeah.
Oh, that's so beautiful. You're like a powerhouse. You're just sort of like a medicine chemist, something where people just rock up and go, I'll take one of these and a little bit of that and a little bit of that.
Yeah, well, look, sometimes it's like, oh, like I'll be sitting there and they'll be telling me like their story, and I'll go in with a plan, and then they'll say something, and then my plan goes out the window, and I'm rejigging it like on the spot. So all of my sessions are actually tailored to the person when they're on one-on-one. So there's no like little cookie cutter sessions for me.
I love that. I think that's so important. And the feedback I've heard from a friend of mine who has gone to you, she speaks so highly of your work. It's incredible.
I know who you're talking about, and I adore her too. Like, there's so much love, but this is the thing, with the friend that you've spoken about, I feel like I have that connection with every client that comes through my doors, because I don't know, I really love the people I get to work with, and it's such a huge honor to be entrusted with, unpacking some of the scariest shit that's happened to you.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think you tapped onto something really important there, and this is what I love talking about as well, is when you're embodied in your truth, in who you really are, and you're not trying to be anyone. We all have the shit that we've got to deal with day to day that comes up, and we've got to, work on it. But when you're truly being who you are and you're stepped into the work that you came here to do, you attract soul-aligned clients. They're like soulmates in every form. So it's not even like these relationships of client and practitioner. It's like, there's my homie, there's my mate, 100%. There's my love. Like, oh my gosh, how are you doing? It's like, and then you go, I get money for this as well? What?
I know. Like, it's almost like inappropriate because everyone gets a hug. Yeah. Everyone's like, by the end of it, we're besties. Like, and I really love every person that I get to work with, like, from all parts of the world, like, because it's not just limited to who can come and see me in my clinic. I do see people both interstate and internationally. So I'm very, very blessed. I guess it is about, you're right, embodying what you came here to do. And that really helps you come in and wake up every day and be like, God, I love my job.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful. And that's the sort of thing that I want the listeners to hear more of. And this is why I get people like yourself on board to go, hey, look, this is real. You don't have to get stuck in a 9-to-5 that you don't like and feel like life is always going to be a struggle or any of that. It takes time to find your purpose. I mean, I'm one of those people who has so many things that I love to do. So my biggest struggle, oh, hello.
Hey.
Hey, buddy. He wants a session.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, I've found it's been hard trying to just start with one thing, because I always want to do like 50 things at once. And, whether it's art or music or helping clients and doing healing work or doing the podcast, and it gets to be a lot. So it's not a small thing when you step into your path. I think it's the most powerful thing that you'll do in this life. And you find that when you do, and I see so many people around me, when they do it, when they sort of, that thing clicks and then they go all in on it, everything aligns. They become a manifestation magnet. Like, they magnetize all of these beautiful people, abundance, opportunities, relationships, all kinds of things. And it's just so incredible to watch. So
oh, thank you. It is a good thing, but I've also found, like, when I was an employee, shout out to all my ex-employees, I was the worst employee. I was
Oh, yes.
the worst employee ever. And I always thought to myself, oh my God, I'm not cut out for the working world. But it wasn't that I wasn't cut out for the working world. I was doing jobs that just weren't in alignment with who I was. So prior to this, I was actually a graphic designer, but I had to work for myself. I couldn't work for anybody else. And maybe it's like, don't tell me what to do, my inner teen coming out. But but I needed to feel like I was gaining the rewards for putting the work in, because I just felt like when I was in the corporate world in my early days, because, you come out of school and you have all these dreams. I know, like, I graduated in 2000, so I'm giving you my age here.
I love it.
We were all about,
I'm not far behind.
Well, it's one of those things where you kind of have this ideal that you want to work in the corporate world and you want to, really make an impact. And then when I got in there, I was just like, this is effed. Yes. I don't like this. I'm like back almost like a school routine, and I hated school.
Yes. Yep.
And I had to deal with all the politics, and I'm not down for that because I'm a cut down the line, like straight through person. Like what you see is what you get. I don't like playing politics, and when I was in that environment, I was constantly getting burned because I was showing up as myself, but everybody else was showing up as something else. And I was like, whoa, this is not for me. So then when I ended up going down the path of working for myself, even as a graphic designer, it was a different trajectory. It made me feel a little bit more empowered, a bit more in control. But then I got to a point where I was like, that's enough. I don't really like that. And then I headed into the world of spirituality. But that was always parallel to whatever I was doing. So I was a clairvoyant since I was like working clairvoyant since I was about 20.
Oh, wow.
And
okay.
Yeah. Surprise, another modality. They just keep popping out. And and this is like kind of what led me to the passion of working with the unconscious mind. I would be able to see what was coming for people, and that was their outcome. But they'd be like, how? And I was like, how would they get there? And the vehicle to that is actually your unconscious mind. So removing your limiting beliefs, releasing trauma, forward traveling in your timeline to see yourself in that position, manifestation, all those things like combined is the how when you get the reading. So like, don't get me wrong, I love readers and everything else, but the link to kind of getting what it is that you want is doing the inner work.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. It would be so fantastic if clairvoyants could all link up with someone like yourself so that their clients could then be sent straight to you. So it's like you've got the resources to actually action this work that needs to be done to get you where I see you going.
But I also think that it's something that clairvoyants should have, period.
Yeah,
because you're dealing with people that are coming to you in a vulnerable state.
Yeah, that's very true.
If you don't have that background of being trauma informed or having the tools and the skill set to guide people out of their like fight, flight, freeze trauma response in that moment, what you say in that time and space when you're giving a reading can severely impact somebody. And I really took that seriously as a reader as well. I was just like, people are coming to me because their life is not great. They're not coming to me because everything is perfect. They want to hear something positive, something amazing is happening. They want to know that this is going to be over soon. And they want to know how they're going to get there. The how was the missing link, and that was when I just threw myself into self-learning, and then I went down the study path, and I'm the forever student in this realm of things, because even though I have like what seems like a lot of modalities, I don't feel like it's enough. I can never get enough of this work. So this is how I know that I'm probably in alignment with what I'm supposed to be doing, because I'm comfortable and actually like thrilled to be a forever student in this industry. Whereas when I was doing things that weren't in alignment with who I was just like, that's it. Oh my God, I've got to get out of here. Like, there's got to be another way. Whereas I wake up every day, I'm looking at different courses, different modalities I can learn, different ways I can support the people that come through my doors. That isn't just the one modality, because not everybody is a one size fits all. And that's what I found doing the work that I'm doing.
Yeah, wow. That's amazing. Very, very good point. It's so true, because I know that when I've had readings in the past, I have held what they've said so close to my heart, and it has changed the trajectory of my life in many ways. I've gone, no, I've been told that this is going to happen, so I might make this choice a little bit differently. So it's a really, really good point to sort of, that is one modality, but just to have that alone isn't necessarily the best thing for the client.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I also find like, even like, I know I'm talking about the reading side of things, but this is what people are generally interested in when they come to me. They're like, oh, you do psychic stuff as well. I was like, yes, I do, but that's that part. The work is this part. Oh, sorry, this part. So I'm out of the screen there. So when it comes to doing the psychic work and everything else, we've got to understand that free will takes place. I can tell you, no, Sarah, don't go out today because you're going to get hit by a bus, right? But if you go out and you go, oh, Sarah said this, but I'm going to take the other route because it doesn't, cross the street that way.
Yeah.
Your whole path changes based on that one decision.
Yeah.
And that's what I say to people when they get like a terrible reading and they're like, they said this and that's going to happen and he's not the one and da 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 da. I was like, yes, but it can change. Everything can change based on your decisions and then based on the work that you do and your responses to the decisions that you make. And that's where the trauma work comes in, because it all kind of marries up to, and I'm going to sound so cliche, to your inner child.
Yes, well, this is what I want to talk about, right? So I want to know more about, we hear the word trauma so much thrown around, and what
too much.
is it? Is it well, this is the thing. It's great because more people are becoming aware of it. It's more out there and readily available for people to get info on it, but that can also be very confusing because it's sort of like this person's saying it's this person's saying it's everyone has it, or only certain people have a certain type of it. So could you give us a little bit of a breakdown of what is, I mean, there's so many questions around this, right? I'll try and break it down into little bits, but I guess what's the most important thing we need to know about trauma to start with?
Okay, so first I'm going to just say I'm not like a specific, like I know enough about it, but I wouldn't put myself in the expert category. There are people out there like Gabor Mate and Russell Kennedy, who's the anxiety RX author, who's amazing, and all these other people, and Dr. Nicole Piro. So they really specialize in it all. So from my understanding, from the work that I've done, from the courses that I've done and everything else, there is all sorts of like, there's big T trauma, which you like recognize as physical, sexual abuse, medical abuse, anything like that. That is really huge. And like it gives you a lasting impact. And then there's little T trauma, which could be something as small as a passing comment that affects you and then takes you on the path of, say, anorexia, body dysmorphia, or like, making like particular choices in your partners based on what somebody has said to you. Right? So it could be a passing comment. And when I've done any kind of trauma work for people that have had issues like that, it is always the smallest comment at the most vulnerable time in their life, which is their 0 to 7 age bracket. And that creates their whole world. And then they start living by that moment in time. So maybe, for example, are you going to eat all that at a barbecue? And they're like, oh, shit, I shouldn't be eating this much food. So incoming eating disorder, trauma. Yeah. And it's not even like, when they go back to that moment in time, it wasn't like it was a big plate. It wasn't like there was a lot of food. It wasn't like it was unhealthy. It was somebody projecting their issues onto a child. And then the child was like, oh, I shouldn't be I shouldn't be eating this much. And then it throws their world into a spin. So that's like something that is, I don't know, I guess like a very generalized but vague example as well. I don't know if I'm saying this right.
Yeah, no, that helps a lot, because that's the thing. I think it's the little T trauma that I've gotten caught up with in the past, sort of going, what is that? Because I know there's obviously big trauma that are big events, that are something horrible that's happened to you, or an accident or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the small ones, and they're the ones that they really do shape our lives, right? So then it's people like yourself working on the limiting beliefs that people hold and letting go of them. And like, so is that sort of one of the most important things that you're working on with people? Is it the limiting beliefs, or?
Yeah, the limiting beliefs is really huge, because when you release the limiting beliefs, it really changes your lens on the world. But it's also then reparenting yourself. So giving yourself whatever you needed to be, do, or have in that moment to feel loved, supported, and encouraged, right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like, we all get stuck at that first point of trauma. So it's almost like our younger self freezes at that point, but our body keeps growing, but we're still processing things at that immature level. So you can see a lot of, like, we hear the words man child thrown a lot, but it's because they've probably had something happen to them when they were like younger that has had them frozen in that point in time, and they are behaving from that age.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah.
would you be able to give us a few examples of some limiting beliefs that people can sort of, if they hear them, they might sort of check in and go, "Ooh, that's one that I've been holding as well."
Oh, look, the I'm not good enough one. I'm not enough. That's a big one. So the amount of people that I have come through and they just feel like anything they do isn't good enough, and or they put this pressure on themselves to be constantly achieving. That is a big one. So I've got a lot of high achievers. Hello.
Hand up over here.
Hand in the air like you just don't care. Yeah. So there's a lot of high achievers that feel like their value and their worth is based on them only like being recognized for their their abilities. Yeah. So that's a
Yep, that's one I've got, definitely. I'm working through that one. There's been other ones that I've sort of been able to kick a bit, but that's a big one. And it's so interesting when you become aware of it as well, but it still plays its role. So when I create things and it doesn't necessarily hit the way that I thought it would, or it doesn't necessarily receive certain feedback that I hoped it would, and I've had to like, this is the main one that I've been working on the last couple of years, where I've had to actually take 2 years off social media to be creating, to do my artwork, to music, to do all the things that I love to do just for me, and to find that I actually did a lot better. I enjoyed the process so much more, and I finally was able to come back. And obviously in coming back and now being a lot more active on social media, and I'm doing a lot more, with the podcast and everything, I'm in front of the camera a lot more. Those patterns do pop up all of a sudden, and it's like, oh my gosh. So it's this constant. Is it something that people do get to a point where they go, this is cleared? Or is it something that it's just your awareness becomes so great of it that you're able to catch it every time that it comes up and parent it?
Okay. Well, you can get to a point where this is clear and you're like, you've overcome that hurdle. I can give you my own limiting belief. For a long time, I was very camera shy. So this would not have been happening. I know. Who am I? Like my social media manager, Alicia, shout out to her, would die knowing that I've been on lives this week, on a podcast. Like I've been doing some like TikToks and the rest. And it's because for a long time I just didn't feel like, this is me being vulnerable, that I was good enough, that I was pretty enough, that I could be seen, I could be heard, that I had something of value to say. So I was just like, I'll hide behind like, my memes. So if you do follow me, everything's all like the humorous side of trauma, because I tell you what, everyone who's been traumatized, it's like a stand-up comedy hour in my clinic. They are so funny. And we have to laugh about it together, because if we don't laugh, we're always going to be crying. So the fact that we can make light out of such a heavy topic and subjects, it's really it's really nice. But for me, my biggest limiting belief was like, shit, I haven't got anything of value to add, even though I did have all this like expertise on my side. And so I know that I'm overcoming it now. The fact that I'm talking about it on such a public platform. Shit.
Can't deny it now. I got my shit.
Yeah, I know. Like there's proof of this, but I'm always a work in progress. And this is what I say to people. Like you might kind of come over that hurdle, and then it might be like, something else around that sphere starts to pop up. And then you need to work on that. So when it comes to the inner work and the inner healing, I feel like it's just it's like a Pandora's box, right? So you open it up and you're like, I'm just going to do my inner child. And then it's like, everything comes out. And it's like the never-ending story. But I'm going to say this to you. You start to handle day-to-day life a lot better.
Yeah.
And when you are operating from a regulated nervous system because you've released your trauma, or you've learned how to regulate yourself or manage it better, you are no longer behaving from a triggered state. So when I was like in the thick of it, I was triggered all the time. Like you couldn't even look at me without me going, and having like an episode, right? And I was constantly in that state of fight, flight, freeze, just hyper vigilant, oversensitive. Everything was just coming up. And, you have to do the work. And it's not like you do the work 1 year and then you're done.
Yeah.
Because what happens is the other stuff starts coming up and you're just like, oh no, there's more. Right? I thought we had dealt with this, and then like, actually no.
Yeah.
So once you do the inner child work, then your inner teen comes out, and your inner teen is like fucking rage, always angry, wants to go against everything, or she might be really timid and shy and might have needed the encouragement to really step into her own.
Yeah.
Right? So when you look at your life and then you have a bit of like a reflection, and you look at it objectively, like, oh my God, is my inner teen taking the steering wheel, or is my inner child taking the steering wheel? You can really see the difference. I know when I was rebelling in my career, like early days, that was 100% my inner teen. I'd turn up late. I would not do my work. I'd be like, you can't tell me what to fucking do, but you're going to pay me for it. I was the worst employee. I know. I'm so sorry to the people that I used to work for. I swear to God, I was horrible. But it was all of my unprocessed and unhealed trauma that was coming out there, because there was such a tight element of control, like from the school that I went to, from the relationship that I had with my parents, that I had to navigate through in order to be in that place of just like, okay, someone that's asking me to do something isn't trying to take it to the extreme. So calm your tits, just do the job. Yeah.
It's such a heavy one though, like, you know, let's definitely keep making light of it. But
Yes.
that belief, I definitely feel you on that one as well. I don't have anything of value. And I think a big part of that as well is, obviously there'd be things from childhood that have come up, but the internet today, like social media, there are so many people awakening at the same time. And what happens when we awaken? We go through similar sorts of processes. We learn similar modalities. We learn new things about ourselves, but they're all very similar because, hello, we're all the same thing, right? And that's what you start to realize. But
we'll mirror
it becomes hard when you're trying to show people that you know these sorts of things, and then you're hearing 50 other people say the same thing, and you sort of start to go, well, it's already been said. I don't think I need to say it. But the truth is, you are speaking to a whole different range of people who will really need to hear it from you, like your exact person who you are, because they relate to you in some way.
Well, you're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. And this is what I'm starting to get my head around as well. So, again, like, there are other, like, limiting beliefs, and also, like, people who are neurodiverse. And this is, like, a big thing for me, because I think I've been undiagnosed ADHD all my life, and going through like the rabbit hole of TikTok, my God, the education that can come in there, but sometimes it can be misinformed. So I always say be discerning. The rejection sensitivity that I had as a child all makes sense now. Like, not being in that point of not being able to, I guess, speak up because I was fearing what other people would say about my opinion. Or if I would be speaking against the grain, and then what would that mean? Would I be ostracized? And honestly, what I've discovered in my adult years is, like, nobody gives a shit about you. They're too busy thinking about themselves.
Oh, yeah.
They really don't care. They really don't.
And that's the thing. I've come to that as well. Finally, it took such a long time. But the other thing that I realized is 99.9% don't. They don't have time. If they do think about you, it's a fleeting moment, then they're back to their own shit. But if they are thinking about you, if they are going ahead to write those negative comments or to do anything that's a little bit more, you know, taking that next step, then first of all, that's an honor. Thank you for thinking so much about me in such a busy, crazy, distracting time. But that's just feedback. Whatever comes from that, it's an opportunity for you to learn more about yourself, to go, I'm not going to take that on board. Or if I, agree with that advice, or if it's triggering, why is it triggering? Oh, here's something I have to work on. So it all comes back to thank you. And also, when you do a lot of this inner healing work, you start to see through the negative comments of others. You start to see that that's just their inner child speaking up, or that's their unhealed part. So you don't
projection
even worry.
Everywhere.
Yeah. And I just see, like, I mean, I've been blessed to not have any negative comments since I started back on social media. I'm sure there might be some in the future.
No,
I see the lens of I just see them as a child. Even like the vision I have in my head of if it happens is, I just see the innocence in them, that, hate never comes from above. Hate never comes from people who have done the inner work, who have achieved big things, who have really put in the time and effort and energy to create something for themselves, for their life, for their purpose. So whenever anyone's sending that negativity towards you, all you can do is send them love and just go, first of all, I'm staying in the love vibration. So I'm going to keep sending you so much love because that's going to help me. It's helping you. It's fantastic. But it's so interesting, though. The thing I find is that logically I can talk about all these things, right?
Yeah.
But they still get you. They still get you.
Of course
sometimes.
they do. Of course they do. Because we're human. Like, and this is what I come from the platform of, like, I know that I sit in the role of therapist or someone who knows their shit. But I got my own basket of shit that I got to go through. And I can go into avoidance with that as well until it gets to a point where, girl, you've got to handle it, right? And it's usually after I've been triggered so badly that everything bothers me. And I'm just like, oh, fuck, I got to do this, right? So once I get through that point of just like, you know, rummaging through my own stuff and going, right, well, this is because of this reason, this is because of that, I then find that everything around me, my world around me, starts to calm down.
Absolutely.
Right? Because everything that you experience is a projection of your own inner world.
It's such a big one to like really realize that, to go, oh my gosh, I am calling all of this in. Holy shit.
Yeah. Well, everybody's a reflection of your projection. Oh no, that's so cliche. I've heard that so much with NLP, and I'm just like,
it's true. It is true.
Yeah, I can't, like, you can tell someone who's done NLP because they throw that shit at you. And like, maybe I'm a little bit, I'm not anti NLP, don't get me wrong, it's got its place. But when you are having a moment and somebody's like, what is your projection? I just want to, just, what are you doing this to me for? I just need you to go, yes, I know, this is terrible. Validate my feelings. Don't try and make me
analyze.
Yeah, like, fuck that. Like, I didn't come to you for what is your projection. I could have had this conversation at home with myself.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
That's the thing.
So,
and that's a gift. That's like an art form in itself, being able to hold space for people and just not try and fix their problems and sort of be there and go, you know, if you want any advice, I'm here. I can give a little feedback at the end, but also remembering, like, people who are constantly asking other people for their opinions, they're asking other people who haven't necessarily healed their own traumas. So they're coming from a perspective that isn't aligned, isn't healed, isn't enlightened necessarily. So they're just getting more trauma added to them. It's like,
absolutely.
Oh gosh.
Well, they're just projecting their own stuff across. And this is what, like, this is the learning curve that even I experienced as working as a hypnotherapist. Like, I really had to learn to just shut my mouth and listen. And this is about them. This is not about them wanting a solution from me.
Yeah.
Because guess what, everyone? You are so resourceful. You have all the solutions within you, and you can sort out all your own problems. All we're supposed to be is sounding boards until you kind of go, oh, okay, that's it. And then you start talking sense towards yourself, and everything just unfolds in the most beautiful way, right?
So true.
And that's what it is. In, like, when I see my clients, right, I call them my besties, but they're like,
I love it.
When I see them kind of like take that moment, and you can see them going inwards because like their body language changes, they look down and then they start blinking rapidly because that's their unconscious mind like doing all the work, right? And then they just kind of come up and they're like, oh, that's it. And it's so simple. And I was just like, I could never tell them that the answer to their question or to their problem is water and understand what it is.
Yeah.
But they got it, and it all just made sense for them, and it was like dropping down, and it's like the domino effect. As soon as that response came in, everything just kind of got knocked over and they didn't have that problem anymore.
Yeah, wow.
So this is the power of the unconscious mind. I think it's just rad. I like that you can solve your own problems in the right kind of guided space and with the right practitioner.
Yeah.
And it just gets shit done, because don't get me wrong, I've done my own talk therapy. I'm not someone who's like, talk therapy. I think it has its place. I think people need to go speak to someone alongside doing the unconscious mind work, especially if it's like big T trauma or something that they need to get off their chest.
Yeah.
But with the work that I do, it's very solution based. Like, so how are we going to get you on the other side of this feeling?
Yeah.
And guess what? Your unconscious mind has infinite wisdom. So to kind of relate it to the spiritual side, your unconscious mind is basically your higher self.
Yeah.
And it just knows everything about you. So it can sort things out from this time and space to other timelines. to
it
other
holds,
dimensions.
what is it,
Yeah.
like 2 million bits of information per second per eye or something coming in
Mm-hmm.
and getting stored in the subconscious, whereas there's only, this is NLP again,
Yeah.
134 bits that are being held by the conscious mind, something like that. It's
Yeah,
just
it's
mind-blowing.
it
Every
is mind
second.
blowing. Well, that's it. It's all coming in, and this is where the generalization, the distortion, and deletion comes through with the conscious mind, because it's like I can't hold all this. Like it's like literally like when all your tabs are open and your browser goes on the fritz, right? That's the
Yep.
conscious mind. So you can't rely on it to know everything that's happening with you. It'll be like, oh, I think there was like a pink door here and there was a flower over there. Whereas your unconscious mind is like, right, let's pull up this file, let's get it like at 128K. That's probably too low, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And you can see everything. So if I was to say put you into trance to uncover an old memory, you could walk into that room in that time and space and know where somebody's like wristwatch was placed and what time was on that wristwatch.
Yeah.
You know, and that's your unconscious mind, because it's like amazing.
That's
Whereas
incredible. And that's, I mean, that's like where you're tapping into your intuition as well, right? Do you think that's sort of the same thing where, because if your subconscious mind is holding all of this information, having the intuition or the trust in yourself, in your higher self,
yeah,
the part of you that isn't, you know, consciously trying to problem solve everything analytically, it's sort of like trusting, having that intuition that you can pull up the right information that you need at the right time.
yes. Well, this is the thing. Like I go through a very big, like I'm constantly doing a trust fall with my intuition, going like I'm just gonna say what's on my mind right now, and it might be totally wrong, but it's gonna mean something to you, and it might be like purple monkey dishwasher, and they're like, oh, that's so crazy because that was my aunt's da 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 da, and I'm like, right. And it's not about me interpreting the message; it's about me sending the message across, and they make meaning of it,
Yeah.
right? And when it comes to your intuition, like there's a lot of stuff that we kind of mind read as well, because it is something that I'm looking into as well. Like people that are hypervigilant growing up or have neurodivergence because they've constantly had to read the room. They're known as being highly intuitive people, but in fact, it's just hypervigilance. So whenever I see someone who doesn't necessarily tell me that they're neurodivergent, but I can see it as soon as they come in. They have a look, they do a massive scan of my room, they spot the exits, they pick where they're going to sit. It's usually somewhere where they can see the door.
Wow.
They have all these kind of like little checkpoints that they do. Sorry, I can't talk properly. And then I see them kind of relax as soon as they know that they are safe. And this is also trauma survivors as well, like with physical abuse, emotional abuse, or sexual abuse. They do a massive scan and they think they're being like so quiet about it, but those who know, right? And then I'll ask them, do you want me to leave the door open so you can see outside? Because I'm all about, like, if I know that their fight or flight is going to be activated, they need to see what's happening. They need to know that if they have a moment, they can run to that exit and they can go.
Yeah, absolutely.
But lucky for me, they don't go. We just have it out.
We're just besties.
We're besties.
I love it.
Yeah.
Just having a hangout. Just
I love
well.
it, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so good. So, I mean, how do we know if we have unresolved trauma? Like, how does that sort of show up? What are the signs that make us go, oh, wow? And they're probably a billion, right? Are there a couple that people could hone in on now?
Yeah, okay. First thing I'm going to say is gut issues. Gut issues,
okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So if you, like, have any kind of IBS, any kind of digestive issues, like whether it's reflux or just like, bloating or anything else like that, that is usually a symptom of like your body having unprocessed trauma. Anything that is like hip pain, like there's a lot of unprocessed trauma stored in the hip. So I'm reading a lot about that at the moment and trying to do my own hip releases. Not fun, but you know what? I'm releasing trauma. Everything hurts, but it's all in your body, in your back, in your neck. I have clients that come to me like this, and they're in fight or flight, so they're in freeze state. So I just kind of get them to relax, and I'm also mindful. I'm not, what's the word? I'm not someone who doesn't experience these symptoms as well. There's a better word for it, but it's just not coming to my head. Thank you, brain fog. Brain fog is another one. So another thing that you'd know that you've got unprocessed trauma is you have autoimmune disease. So that's a big thing. So as someone who does have autoimmune disease, I know that I've got stuff that I've got to work on. Anyone that comes to me that says that they've got Hashimoto's, lupus, any kind of thyroid, like alopecia, any of that is all unprocessed trauma. And you can actually work through your trauma and release the symptoms of your autoimmune disease. So I had that happen with one of my younger clients, and she was just amazing. She was only young, rheumatoid arthritis, had experienced like several traumas in a row. And then we went through and literally went into the events of those traumas and had given her whatever she needed to be, do, or have, rewrote the story in a way that she felt safe and protected.
Mm-hmm.
And guess who doesn't have rheumatoid arthritis come up in her bloods anymore?
I love that.
Yeah. So the body does keep score, and you can heal your body. And I'm not saying, again, disclaimer, always listen to your doctor. Medical practitioners are always correct. But if you're doing the inner work and you seem to find that it does have a positive effect on your health, it goes hand in hand. Like your inner world and your outer world all come through. So whatever's happening within your body that has manifested through stored emotions or events is going to manifest through physical ailments. So, yeah.
Yeah, right. So is there anything that people can do before they might not necessarily be at the point where they're ready to come and see someone like yourself? They might not be ready to talk to a doctor. They might be so in their own world, but they're starting to become aware that trauma might be playing a role in their life. Is there anything they can start working on at home with themselves to just start maybe tapping into it a little bit or getting a clearer understanding?
Absolutely. And I'm going to be very cliche, but journaling. There are so many prompts available online where you can be like, well, I think this has happened. And then you can Google the prompts.
Yeah.
Or like, there's actually a product that I've created, and they're called Deep Dive Decks. And I've got them right here.
Wait. Before we get into this, because this is really important, I want to hear more. Just do me a favor. When you hit the desk, I lose your voice because it's like a loud sound. It's all good. It's all good. I just don't want to miss anything that you're saying. No, you're fine. You're getting excited. Okay. This is passion.
Passion. Yes.
So tell me about the decks.
So the Deep Dive Decks is basically, I've got them here. They're journal prompt oracle cards. So basically, like, I know that when I wanted to journal, I didn't know where to start. And then when I Googled my journal prompts, there was just such an overwhelm. And I was like, nah. And by the time I filtered through all the journal prompts and I decided I didn't want to do any of them, like my will to do the inner work had left the room, right? Yeah. So also my attention span is of a flea. So I just can't do it. So what I thought, because I would also give my clients like a little something, I'd be like, well, this has come up in session. What about you focus on this prompt to go through the motions of like understanding and unpacking what we've discussed today. So what I ended up doing was making a collation of all the prompts that we had discussed during session, and found some of my own that I created in there as well. I'd put them in an oracle deck, because everybody likes an oracle deck, right?
Yeah.
So basically you shuffle the deck as you would like a tarot deck or an oracle thing, and you'd be like this. So shuffle, not on being mindful that doesn't make too much noise. You pull out a card, and then you have a couple of prompts on there, right? So I don't know if you can see them. So I can read them out for those that aren't kind of on the video. So it's like, growing up, were you hard on yourself? Why did you put so much pressure on yourself? Who were you trying to please by doing so? Did they ever recognize your efforts? Maybe I need to like answer this myself today. But and that's a good way to start, because you've got the prompts there in front of you, and it's just so easy to kind of go in and answer the question. And it's a very cost-effective way of doing it. I'm not saying my cards, like any prompts that you find online, is a cost-effective way to kind of like get in there and start doing the work. There are so many free resources online and so many amazing practitioners that you can follow that do give freebies on there. And it's a good place to start to kind of really get you reflecting as to like, oh, maybe I relate to this, or oh, I had a bit of that, maybe I should look down that rabbit hole. And it really helps to kind of guide you in the direction, and also help you to find what kind of modality works well for you as well.
Yeah.
Because we look at trauma healing, like back in the day before I knew anything about unconscious mind work, as going to a psychologist, a counselor, or a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
And sitting there and either getting like, hours and hours of talk therapy, handed a script for some pills, or, no. And again, I'm saying this generally speaking from the experience that I've had.
Yep.
no real resolve. So going there, discussing the problem, but not really moving
Oh,
outside of retelling
honestly,
your story.
yeah, I had awful experiences with sort of, the psychologists that were assigned to medical centers. So it's not like I'm paying massive dollars for them.
Yeah.
But it was basically like they'd hand me a flyer with a few questions or something. And from based on those questions, I would be diagnosed with this or this or this. And it was like so extreme, the diagnosis. And I would go from, feeling one way when I'm writing that to then 2 days later, I'm fine. I just was having a couple of bad days, but I did that survey in that period of time. And now
Right.
they've based everything on just that. And it's like, I felt like they didn't actually give me a chance to get to know me and to get to see patterns, or there wasn't enough time involved. And it was sort of like,
Yeah.
this is what your problem is. And here are some meds, or here's, just do this or do that. And it was like, it's just too black and white for me. There's so many shades of gray here.
I understand completely, but I also I want to kind of point out that meds have their place as well.
Mm, mm,
Um, I'm just saying that it all kind of works complementary.
yeah.
Everything's complementary. So if you need meds or if you are on meds, there's no shame on being on them. Like,
Mm,
still do the inner work. Still process the trauma that's in there that's helping you to kind of sorry, not helping you. The trauma that's in there that has made you come to this point where you needed to seek
yeah.
external help. Um, I don't know where I was going with that, but
Sorry, I cut you off
so
halfway.
no, it's okay. But I'm just saying that every modality is valid and has its place. But I'm a believer in more of a holistic approach. So if you're going to be doing the inner work, I believe in eating right, making sure you're fueling your
Yes.
body with healthy foods, moving your body, exercising, whether it's going to the gym, yoga, Pilates, or dancing in your bedroom or your living room
Mm-hmm.
by yourself. Anything that kind of gets the body moving also helps to shift the energy, because that's where a lot of body work comes from. So there's the trauma release therapy, which is the shaking
Yes.
and deep breath work. Anything that gets you moving
Mm-hmm.
helps to change your state as well. So I don't know, I'm a big believer in holistic work, doing more than one modality,
Yeah.
seeking out answers wherever you can.
Yeah.
There's so many free options, even on YouTube when it comes to meditations, even hypnosis and everything else. Just Google's your best friend. Obviously, be discerning with whatever you do for free, because sometimes there are some uninformed people putting out information out there, and make sure you are getting it from a reliable source. That's probably my
Yeah,
biggest.
definitely. I really appreciate you saying that, though, the holistic side of it, because I think that's the key. Is you can't necessarily just heal the way your mindset is, but then you're not living, you're not eating right, or you're not having any
Yeah.
sort of exercise. So what could you share with us? What are your daily, do you have any sort of non-negotiable self-love, self-healing practices that you do that really just keep you at a healthy foundation?
Okay, so I wave the in and out of consistency. And this is
Yeah.
my biggest my toxic trait. I'll tell you what to do, but don't at me with what I'm not doing. So I try and get out and be active every day, whether I'm walking my dog
Mm-hmm.
or I might go to the gym and do something there. My biggest ritual that is an act of self-care is my daily cup of coffee. And I know people are
Nice.
like, caffeine gives you anxiety. I'm like, it doesn't, not for me. It actually calms my brain. It
Yeah,
slows everything
right.
down, and I can start everything ADHD. So
Yeah, yeah.
that's they tend to give stimulants to people on that have ADHD to kind of get their brain not running a million miles an hour and going in many directions. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, my self care is the coffee. It's going for a walk. Um, Actually, my nightly routine is I will do either a meditation or a hypnosis to kind of bring my nervous system back to basics, because it really affects how I wake up the next morning. So if I don't do it, I'm a mess. So I wake up late, I can't get my shit together, everything's
Yeah,
just all over the spot.
yeah,
But when I do my nightly hypnosis of just relaxing my body, releasing my emotions, and just getting myself into that deep state of rest,
mm,
it just resets me for the next day and I'm ready to go on. So that's my biggest self-care. And I'm working on things as well, like in regards to shifting my diet, making healthier choices, trying to do better for myself and my family. So it's a work in progress. Like, just because I'm a therapist, I'm not perfect. I have my own like shit that I carry around, and I do everything that's, probably it could be better for me. It could be better for even my family and stuff. Just how I regulate myself really depends, like how I am as a parent as well. So if I'm dysregulated, I'm like a screaming banshee. Whereas when I'm regulated and calm, I'm like the best mom ever, like TV mom. But when I'm not, everybody runs for cover, even the dog.
But I think it's really important for people to see that even people like yourself who are healing others, we're all still human, right? It's sort of I think a lot of people will put themselves in categories of, oh, that person's got it all sorted and they're able to heal, and I got to get myself to a certain level before I can do that. And healing, like the biggest thing that I've had to learn, and I have good and bad days with food as well. Like I have periods that are fantastic, and I think I've kicked this habit now. And then that little habit, like too much sugar, is my habit every now and then. Like when I have sugar, I'll have it in short amounts, big amounts, but in short bursts. And then it'll just completely mess up my mentality for the next couple of days. I sink into a lower mood, all these sorts of things. But I've had to realize, like, I am making progress. Healing isn't linear, and that we hear that one a lot as well, but it's so true. Like the way I've started to sort of see it in my mind is like a snake. Like it works its way up from the bottom and it goes to the left and then it goes to the right. It's working its way up, but it's not going straight. It's literally, and then some
days, such a beautiful metaphor.
Yeah, and some days instead of just going to the left, it sort of droops down on the left and then it works its way back up and then droops down on the right, and but it's still heading forward.
Of course it is. And that's what I try to tell people that come into my clinic as well. Like, don't stick me in a guru status. And anyone who does put themselves in that place, red flag. Red flag. Run. Because you know what? The more they try and come to you from a point of like, oh, I'm so holy and I can do this, but you can't. Fuck that. Run.
Well, that's the thing. Even the truest gurus that you would label that of our time would never call themselves gurus.
That's right.
They would always say, no, I'm always the student. I'm still learning all sorts of things.
100%. So this is the thing, even when people say, oh my God, you're so psychic, I'm coming to you for guidance. I was like, hate to break it to you, I'm not special. You can do what I can do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so true. It's all of us just owning who we are, right? And just being okay with it. And it takes so long, but I think there's so many there's so many people like yourself that are doing such good work, and people are becoming okay with being unique, and we're stopping this idea of having to fit in, but it is so ingrained in us that it's going to take time. But I just want to say good on you, applaud you for the work that you're doing, and the feedback that I'm hearing is fantastic. I'm definitely going to get myself a session soon. I'm thinking
I can't wait to see you.
I'm excited for hypnosis. I've never actually done hypnosis before, and I know some people say that some people can't be hypnotized, and other people say, like other practitioners say, no, everyone can be hypnotized. So I'm curious to see if I have any resistance to it.
Look, there are some people that might have that resistance, but it's only because they are very there's fear behind it. They're worried about what you can get them to do. Yeah. So when it comes to hypnosis, we've got our conscious mind, our unconscious mind, and this little thing in the middle that's called the critical factor, right? And that critical factor is the bodyguard. So when you're going into trance and I'm saying all the lovely things, the critical factor is like taking the rest. It's like, yeah, that's fine. But if I tell you to do something that is not in alignment with what you've come to the session for, hence, like, for example, I might give me your bank details. I'd never do that, by the way. The critical factor comes up and it's like, Bish, what are you doing? Like, what did you just ask from me? Because this is not okay. And you will come out of the deepest trance so fast.
Wow.
Because I've asked you to do something that isn't aligned with what the intention of the session was. Okay? Wow. So you can protected. Of course you are. You can't do things that you don't want to do. And the people that go and do like the stage hypnosis, and that's a different thing altogether, and like it's for entertainment purposes, and that's a different thing. And then you've got Hollywood, who's ruined us. Like, I don't know, like, I grew up watching my mum watching the daytime soap, so everybody was getting hypnotized to do something. And like Bold and the Beautiful, Days of Our Lives days, it was always like some like massive drama there. But it also gave the impression that it was a form of mind control. But it's actually a really beautiful tool for healing and just being in touch with your inner parts of yourself.
That's beautiful. Oh, well, I've learnt a lot today. I think I need to go and digest it all, let it settle in. But thank you so, so much, Sara, for being here. How can
Thank you
people...
for having me.
That's okay. Oh, I appreciate your time. I know you're so busy. So how can people get in touch with you if they want to work with you? What's the best way?
Okay, so you will always find me like posting something on my Instagram or something like that. So
Love it.
DM me at Clinical Hypnotherapy Centre, one word. That's for Instagram, and I think TikTok as well, but I'm not really on there. Or you can go onto my website and you can have a look at the modalities and the services that I offer there, which is www.clinicalhypnotherapycentre.com.au. And to have a look at the decks, I've got deepdivedecks.com.
Amazing. And you created them yourself?
Yes, I did. And I've got another 2 decks that are launching in the next couple of weeks. So we've got the Vibe Check Oracle deck, which is so much fun. So it's like a straightforward, I thought I had it with me, but I didn't. It's just straightforward, like this is the message, this is the meaning on the card, because some days you just need to be told.
Yeah.
You don't want that interpretation.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I know, I'm like the angels and stuff. It's like, no, this is the message. So that's the Vibe Check Oracle deck, and that's really straightforward. There's 55 cards in there that give you a beautiful spectrum of guidance in there, even from like the no girl, you're in trouble, like to like everything's gonna be okay, and all things in between. And then there's the Blooming Affirmation deck, which is just some beautiful affirmations that you can pull at every day to kind of like put you in a good frame of mind. All the decks actually pair together, so you can use the journal prompt decks with the Vibe Check Oracle deck and the Blooming Affirmation deck to kind of have a beautiful session for yourself. So that's a really nice way to do some self-care. Or you can use it for your clients if you're a therapist. So the Inner Child Therapy deck is actually geared towards clients and therapists. So that's very like therapy-based. Everything in the Inner Child deck is actually what you get in the sessions with me. So questions and so forth. So
fantastic. Good on you. Congratulations. That's such an exciting creation. Wow.
I'll have to send you some decks.
Oh, I would love some. Honestly, I'll pay for them. You're not sending it for free.
No, I'll send it to you.
We'll fight about it.
We'll work it out. Awesome.
Well, thank you so much, and I will talk to you soon.
Amazing. Thank you for having me.
No
See you
worries.
later.
Bye.